I'm Dru Stevenson. This is for my Nonprofit Incorporations class. And here I'm going to be talking about the major categories of 501c corporations. Most people have heard of 501c3 corporations, but there's a few others that lawyers are likely to encounter in practice. And you should know about them in case a client comes to you and they want to start a charity or a nonprofit. And often they will say that they want to start a 501c3 because that's what they've heard of. And as you hear or listen to what they want to do, you realize that the IRS is going to categorize this as something else, like a C4 or a C6. This matters because it affects which paperwork you're expected to file with the IRS, and it will have some implications, tax implications, and management implications for the entity itself. So let's dive in. 501c3 corporations are the most common and most familiar to people. These are organized exclusively for religious, charitable, scientific, or educational purposes. One of the most important implications of having this particular categorization of a C3 is that donations made by individuals to the entity will be tax deductible for the donors. So that's a 501c3. It's the most common. And if you can obtain that, most people want that because it gives them more option to raise funds and donations from donors. Now, notice if you have a 501c3 that there's a trade-off. In exchange for the tax exemption on your revenue, you don't have to pay corporate income tax for money that comes in, and donors can take tax deductions. These organizations are strictly prohibited from participating in any political campaign on behalf of or in opposition to any candidate for public office, and their lobbying activities with regard to legislation, trying to oppose legislation or advocate for legislation that they want, is severely limited. They also must serve the public rather than a private interest. In other words, they can't exist just to benefit the individuals involved. They need to be doing something where the primary benefit, the primary reason that they exist is to provide a benefit for those outside of the entity itself, not the volunteers or the members. Now let's talk about 501c4s, which are another very common type of tax-exempt entity besides 501c3s. These 501c4s are called social welfare organizations, and these are things like civic leagues or local associations of certain types of employees. Unlike 501c3s, donations to these groups are not tax deductible for the donor. On the other hand, 501c4s have more latitude to engage in lobbying and political campaigning, though some limits are still going to apply. So these are often used for advocacy or election campaigns at PACs and things like that because they can engage in more political activity than a 501c3. Another very common type of tax-exempt corporation is actually a 501c6. This is different from a 501c3. These are business leagues and trade associations, so organizations formed to promote a common business interest or improve business conditions for a specific industry or locality. In other words, they're not just providing services or benefits for specific individuals, but it's also not really a general benefit to the whole public. This is something like a trade association, like the oil and gas industry trade association, a trade association for pharmaceutical companies, or some other industry where they get together and they are exchanging things to help develop within the industry. So some examples that are pretty common and well known are chambers of commerce or local real estate boards and so forth. So when we talk about a 501c6, these business leagues and trade associations, the entities are tax exempt in the sense that they don't have to pay corporate income tax at corporate income tax rates on the money that comes in. But contributions to these entities are not deductible as charitable gifts. though in some cases, if you meet certain requirements, they may be deductible as business expenses. And again, these entities are permitted to engage in more extensive lobbying than a 501(c)(3), especially if it's related to their industry's interests or promoting their industry. If you were part of a trade association, for example, for restaurants, you could lobby the legislature to make it easier, right, for people to open restaurants or for restaurants to be more profitable. Let's talk about 501(c)(7) organizations, which are social and recreational clubs. This designation is for clubs organized for pleasure and recreation and other nonprofit purposes like country clubs and hobby clubs, maybe college fraternities, sororities. These groups must be supported primarily by membership fees and dues. So they don't exist to maximize profits for the shareholders or to make as much money as they can. But the fees and dues that are generated may allow them to provide a nice restaurant, a dining club, or a golf course or things like that the members can go and enjoy. And that brings us to the end of this quick overview of the four major types of 501(c) entities that exist. I think the main value for explaining this to my law students is that if a client wants to create a prospective charity, you really need to pay attention to what they're trying to do. A lot of people have only heard of 501(c)(3)s, so that's what they're going to ask you to create. But you need to watch for something that really is a C4 or a C6 or a C7. For purposes of my class, if you're doing a final project, you need to do something that will be eligible or count as a 501(c)(3) corporation, not a C4 or a C6 or a C7. If your idea is a C7, pick a different project. Thanks for watching.